Numa manje mati kunyil kabaje ama simitone umel bisiga ba kungole ngolen kunga penguweti coronavirus. Tanka panga koli kunyila koli di kuchinwara koli kan manje muji tina tintokon numa nukar urutu na nungare penguweti coronavirus. Panyingol jirambeni au danyole binyingol jirigista bashamu kaniwa. Wonk GTP bisinamba sanumanje phone ndejo SNTown 404-593-6215. Wala mi send the email info@gtpromotion.org. Wala mati coronavirus kanga ko sumut kabu manje kabajoy. Woto jonga penguwe mungono sanka panga ko sumut coronavirus. Coronavirus. Dichoji penguwe ja. Ano sanangole no.
Assalamu alaikum barin jibera min be ban jibe kanyin tammenna ka bonal ye Gambian Talents TV annal badi malam Aissatou Koli ko na moy nyamin aning na letol je nyamin no sol minu ya lon ko wala be various lopitanol to bi wala nate kambenta jamimbe H20 tuti mimbe banjun sansan kono ya fole ko reports on na min mo ko ibina strike lara because ila ala one sol min yalan ko ining ministry contracts to mimo Ministry of Health imo timmande kunun nak na jale honorable minister min kata health Dr. Ahmed Lamin Samate I press conference kumande ka foko nyin nak nyin kata kulati mi yalan ko he's really disappointed andunga mamira nunga bol abe bokan na mol min yalan ko wallem anna no so tibari first time ni kumandi interview lay ni ko muna ne lafta nyin do ko le ka fo ko lafta ka lifeless safe so nyin kita ko ti mi yalan ko ako he's really disappointed bari fana aya bambandiro ko ining nyin association min kata nurses and midwives association ya lahido min tanum pour ka ila fenkol ila sarale ni la ala wansol be jo wo processo nyin nak ibakanne andum fana aya fole ko central ya stade le ka ijo ke idundila accountol kono barbi hanim bi anamo kunun sute ko nosisol postpone bari akam to ko ma postpone bi nak najere ko ibe sirinja ifintita nam pro ka foko hanim bi rek tolbi ta kan sit down strike la so mbitala na la moy ay be min foka wala yemin soto ka fo mbar atol yemin yalan ko atol len na jiberate ala baraka bake.
Everyone, I hope you can hear me well. Okay, good morning. I want to welcome the esteemed media for gracing our occasion. For a start, I want to just brief you about the formalities of the press conference. The reason why we call this press conference. We want to brief the media about the modalities of our the press conference, and also the sit-down strike that the association has organized, the way we are going about it, and also we are going to make some clarifications about the statement that was issued by the Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Samada, yesterday. So my name is Yusuf Sanyang, and I'm the president of the National Association of Gambian Nurses and Midwives. So the briefing is going to go like this. The Secretary General will issue a press statement, and afterwards we will entertain questions and answers from the press, because we don't have much time and you don't want to waste your precious time here. So on this occasion, on that note, I will call the Secretary General of the Nurses Association, Mr. Usman Toure, to read the press statement.
Good morning to you all. I start by introducing myself. I am Usman Toure, the Secretary General of the National Association of Gambian Nurses and Midwives, and we are so grateful that you people are here to get this information to the general public. The reasons for calling this conference is to let Gambians know the contempt with which nurses are being treated in this country and the conditions under which they work, and also offer clarifications on the statements made by the Honorable Minister of Health in the press conference held yesterday. Globally, nurses constitute about 60% of health workforce. They provide care 24 hours round the clock for inpatients and outpatients, which constitutes for more than 75% of care for patients in health facilities. Nationally, this figure could be even more. There is no single health facility in this country without a nurse. Despite these facts, nurses are always treated with contempt. When I was a student nurse, a female nurse was slapped in front of me and I had to intervene. And the issue was run down the drains. Nothing came out of it because we are nurses. I can confirm to you that that matter was laid to rest simply because they wanted to protect some group of people or co-workers. In October 2020, a nurse by the name Basin Jangha was physically assaulted at the Ministry of Health by a senior ministry officer simply for making inquiries about her salary that was not paid and her allowances for the COVID-19. This was a matter that went ahead to the police, but the Ministry of Health never took any disciplinary action against that person. Then in December 2020, I was personally verbally abused by one of the most senior people at the Ministry of Health. I remained calm and the minister had to intervene to pacify me, to apologize to me on the person's behalf, but no further actions were taken to solve that problem. All these things I am telling you are to show you that nurses in this country are not respected by the Ministry of Health. Their matters means nothing to them. The reason why I am starting from this is to give you a background of all the situations that have been gathering and piling up to where we are today. The working conditions of nurses and their remuneration in this country is sad. Nurses are overworked, they are underpaid, they are underprotected against infection, they are underprotected against working colleagues, they are underprotected against even the public. When there are issues between nurses and other colleagues that goes against nurses, there is never justice. Equity or equality in the ways we are treated in the health sector, the disparities are definitely too huge. And they are not just about the finances, but even the way that we are treated and respected in the health institutions. About the remuneration of nurses, a nurse in Senegal can pay a nurse in the Gambia 3 times or more. A nurse in Ghana can pay a nurse in the Gambia 3 times or more. A nurse in Zambia and Malawi can pay a nurse in the Gambia 3 times or more. I am not just giving you baseless facts. I have been to some of these countries and I have friends in some of these countries through some international linkages that I have with them, and I inquire and find out. Just recently, my recent inquiry was in Malawi. In Malawian currency, they have 400,000 is equivalent to more than close to $30,000 in the Gambia, which can pay more than 3 nurses. You understand? Nursing is driven by passion in this country, not money. All that nurses are asking for is the minimum. Put food on the table, provide shelter, and live a minimum dignified life. This is what we are asking for. But it will sadden you to know that nurses live from paycheck to paycheck. We struggle every day with our basic needs and the needs of our families, even if you have a family of 3. This is the truth. And then I am telling you, because of the payment condition of nurses in this country, nurses work for more than 12 to 18 hours of their life and spend 4 hours sleeping and 3 hours for their family. This is the reality. For instance, an on-call allowance at the provincial Gambia used to be $200. It was ever $200, never enhanced. And if you don't understand what on-call allowance takes care of, I will make you understand, because people need to know what is happening. If you work from 8 to 4 as an in charge in the provinces, from 4 p.m. to the next morning 8 a.m., any critical case that happens to appear at your health center, you will come. Even if you are in bed with your wife, you will get up and come. And it doesn't matter how many times it happens, you will still come. Every day it can happen, every night it can happen, and you will still come. Up to 30 days, and you are given $200 for all that sacrifice. A counterpart in the healthcare profession receives more than $10,000 for the same allowance, for the same issue. So you know the disparity is very clear. Now, problems can never be solved, obviously. Problems can never be solved if they are not identified as problems. Mistakes become willful if they are not owned up to and fixed. Leaders should not mask the true circumstances of scenarios just to paint themselves white. One of the qualities of an ethical leader is integrity, and I am telling you that it is sad that we need a lot of that in public offices in this country. We owe the nation a duty as nurses. The Ministry of Health owes the nation a duty as an institution. So if the Ministry of Health wants to achieve universal health coverage and give quality care to this nation, it needs to be brave enough to face the reality, speak the reality, do the reality to achieve the reality. This is the status quo. In coming to the press conference yesterday, I will give you a brief genesis of the situation. A press release was made on the 30th of this month, and it indicated that the paying allowances to the nurses is an initiation of the Ministry of Health. This information is misleading. I will make it clear to you. The Ministry of Health did initiate an allowance, but it was an allowance that was meant for minister himself, doctors that have moved from clinical areas to the main ministry, and PhD holders in the other cadres. In the nursing fraternity, people working with the hospitals, the PhD holders are not more than 5 in the whole country. If it is more than 5, not up to 10. Now, there were nurses who were moved from clinical areas to the Ministry of Health. They were not part of this scheme. And the justification was that those doctors that have been moved, their allowances have been cut, because when you are at the clinical area, you are paid some allowances, that if you are not at the clinical area, you cannot be paid those allowances. But the same situation affected the nurses who moved from clinical area to ministry. The same situation affected the nurses who moved from public health officers who moved from clinical area to ministry. The same situation affected the laboratory scientists. But when the allowance was being taken to the cabinet, those other sectors of the people at the ministry were sidelined. So this clearly shows that it was not about moving from ministry, from health facility to ministry, but it was something based on self-interest motion. And this is the reality. When it happened, I went to the Ministry of Health. I sat with the Honorable Minister because he sees me as a brother and we have that close relationship. Not on official grounds, but I told him what you have done, the approval of this allowance by the cabinet only proves to nurses and other healthcare workers that you don't care enough about them. He explained that it is something starting, but it will get to other sectors across. I said, but if it is just starting, what stopped you from including the nurses in the ministry who have been moved from the institutions? No justification was given. So I am telling you this. In August to October 2020, nurses and midwives, cognizant of that some allowances are just $100 and $200, sadly the one I explained here, they made a proposal and sent it to the Ministry of Health. The proposal was taken by laterals at the PMO. The PMO rejected that because it was not properly defended. And I happen to be privy to the reasons why it was not properly defended, because nurses were underrepresented at the bilaterals. And this information I am giving you is not false, because I have been there always and I talk to them, they talk to me, they give me information that I need to know. So in October, when they said the bilaterals could not accept that because the government is short of resources to fund those allowances, let me even tell you the allowances. For a nurse attendant will just have an increment of not up to $2,000. An SCN second level nurses will have an increment of not up to $3,000. An RN will have an increment of not up to $4,000. These are small amounts of money that definitely needed no chaos. You understand? So when those allowances were rejected, they said government had no money. We did not take any action. We were thinking of ways to properly deal with the situation. On the 5th of February 2021, Cabinet approved allowances to be paid to honorable minister and doctors and few PhD holders just to make it look like nurses are involved, but they are not. And then we went back to them and said, well, you said the government had no money. And the monies that were approved for this category of people could pay the allowances of all the nurses in this country without even thinking twice. This is the situation. We went there and said, okay, now we accepted the faith of the proceedings at the bilaterals because we wanted to understand this nation, understand the people of this nation, understand the government and serve the people. But what happened in the end? They went and then went on the ground, do some work for themselves alone, and then came out with it. Where is the parity? Where is the equality in this country, in the health sector? Then when we heard about that, nurses were agitated. They wanted to go on strike to make sure problems are solved immediately. We, the executive body, decided to console them. I am not looking anywhere to say these things because they are things I know by head. They are the realities. We consoled them and told them, can we first ask for a press conference so that the general public can be aware of what is happening to their nurses, for them to know that we may be forced to leave them in isolation even though our hearts are not there. And that is hurting us more. We are today here not because we are not paid, but because we are forced to be against our own people by a government, a ministry that never cared about the people and never cared about us. We had several meetings with the SG, Secretary General and Head of Civil Service, Mr. Nuha Ture, at this State House Office of the President. After the meetings, it was concluded on the 11th of May at around 3 p.m. The letter was drafted the same day for nurses to be paid these allowances, the agreed allowances, free allowances. And that letter was sent to the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health, copied to the Ministry of Finance, copied to me as the Secretary General of the Association as evidence for them to hold on to their words. And do you know what led us to that? Because initially the discussions were held and then the agreement was that July 2021 they would pay these allowances. The SG pleaded with us during that meeting to say that the resources of the government is not much. Can we consider starting this in August? Almost all my colleagues at the committee meeting there, disagreed. They had foreseen this. But still, I was blindly trusting people. I halted that meeting for 10 minutes, took my members out of that meeting, convinced them to agree because I told them, let us look at the future. July alone is 1 month, but when this starts, it is going to continue forever. I managed to convince them somehow. We went back and agreed and compromised because we are putting the patients first. You understand? Then that letter was ignored, the letter of the SG that was dated on the 11th of May. These dates are important, please. Because the minister was saying something like, you know, when you make these payments, it goes to the bank, central bank, it takes 2-3 days. I am telling you, they had more than 100 days to solve all these problems. And I will also tell you categorically clear that everything they are saying there is just to paint themselves white. The reality of the situation is not being told to you. And you will not know if we don't speak out. That is why I am here. On the 11th of May, the letter was sent. It was ignored by the Ministry of Health under the leadership of Dr. Ahmed Samate. Because whatever happens under your ministry, whether you are conscious or subconscious of it, it is your duty to own up to it. You don't have to defend your people against the people, the larger number that you lead, against Gambians that are innocent and should receive health care. On the 17th of June, the office of SG wrote a reminder to the Ministry of Health that we sent you a letter on the 11th of May. 11th of May to the 17th of June is 1 month, 5 days. Or how many days? Yes. 1 month, 6 days. Nothing has happened. One of the most senior officers of this country write to you and you ignore it. Just because a particular cadre is neglected by you that had led you to insubordination and sabotage of the government, and you come here, you want to blame us for that? Only 17th of May, this email was sent. I have that email with me, and they cannot contest it because I have facts. On the 18th of May, some minutes after 2 o'clock, I know 3 p.m., I can tell you the time if I want to look at it. The email was replied by Permanent Secretary Jete to say that the minister needed to do 1 or 2 things about it, and then they will forward it to finance. Now, from 11th of May to the 18th of June, what have they done? Absolutely nothing about it. Now, 18th of May to 18th of June to 18th of July is 1 month. 18th of July to the 5th of August is almost 20 days. You understand? So, from the reminder, they did nothing. On the 24th of August, they wrote to us and say, due to computation problems, we cannot pay you these allowances this month. We have to pay you in September. Where are we dragging to? We put aside our dignity. We calmed down our people for months. We gave them promises, because they gave us promises and assurances with letter. They put us in the middle and put our integrity to a test. And this is what hurts us more, because we decided to go against the will of nurses for July, convince them to agree with us because we trusted them. We trusted the office of the Secretary General. We trusted all the parties, Ministry of Finance, PMO, and all other parties represented at that meeting. But what did they do in the end? They waited until the 24th of August and sent us that letter that they cannot pay August anymore. They have to pay July. Integrity is a problem in this country. In September. Integrity is a problem in this country. You write to a people from the most important office of this country, and you decided to break that agreement with no justifiable reason, and you write to them to tell them that they have to wait for 1 more month. How are you sure that even a layman, a child of 2 years, can trust you if you promise him breakfast you never gave him, you promise him lunch you never gave him, and you promise him dinner he wants to trust you again? There is no way. They decided to tell you that they were working on the computation. Computation, let me tell you, it's just like entering my name, my details, and my payroll number, which should already have been existing with them as a ministry if this country is serious about its people. I'm telling you. We are suffering from institutional stagnation in this country, and this is the truth. Things that are supposed to take 1 day take 1 month, and things that are supposed to take 1 month take 5 years. This is why we cannot move. If the total number of nurses in this country is not up to 3,000 people that are working. Now, 3,000 people divided by 100 days, even no matter how slow you are in typing, even if you are doing 40 people a day or 50 people a day from 8 p.m. to 4 p.m. as you are supposed to work for the government, not to be on Facebook, not to be doing unnecessary things, to be there for your people. You should be able to finish that within 100 days. One sign that can show you that they never took any decision or never took any action about this is this. On Thursday last week, which must fall around what was the date on Thursday? It was after around 26th. Around the 26th, yeah. They wrote to the hospitals and told them to make sure that they provide them with lists of their staff before 10 a.m. on that day. That's the time they gave those people. Now, something that was approved in May on the 11th, how come the names that you need, the people that you need to pay, their names are being requested on the 26th? Logically, does it make sense? How can you convince us that you were working on it? What were you working on? Empty Microsoft file documents? The names that you needed were not with you for more than 100 days. And do you know what led to them writing to the hospitals? Because they wrote to us on the 24th that they wanted to push it to September. We wrote back to them on the 25th and said this information only proves your negligence, I will say it aloud, your incompetence, your lack of concern for Gambians and the health system of this country. That is why you do this. And these words are my words. I am the secretary. I wrote them there and it is true. So when they saw that letter from us, and in that letter we told them the agreement is August, and August 31st, if nothing happens, whatever comes out of it, you will have to face the Gambians and explain to them, not us. Then this was what triggered them to put pressure on the hospitals. So meaning the September proposal they made to us was just a mere fake information. Because if at all they got the release from the hospitals earlier, we would have understood that they were working on it, but they were late. But they only started working on it on the 26th. And this I can attest to you. That is why the letters were sent to the hospitals, for them to give them the names of their staff. You understand? So when the names were sent on the 31st, they had another plan. That is, let us just make sure we fast track and pay a few of them, to make sure that somebody is paid and somebody can say, I am paid. So that when they go on strike, we can go and fool the Gambian people by telling them that we even paid them, but they still went on strike. The reality is the lists of the hospitals is still kept in their offices. They are going back and forth from ministry PS's office to treasury, from treasury back to ministry back to treasury, because one or two things went wrong, because somebody somewhere did not do his job, because it was late, it was done in a haste, and nothing can go accurately. So this is the reality of the situation. Nurses embark on a sit-down strike. We would have shut down the entire health system. 80%, I told you, average of healthcare delivery is done by nurses. If 80% is withdrawn from anything, what is left? Nothing. We are considerate and we are compassionate towards the Gambian people. And that is the reason why we decided to put even the sit-down strike in stages. Stage 1, emergency services. Our mothers, pregnant women will be taken care of. Our people in the ICUs will be taken care of. Our people in the dialysis unit will be taken care of. COVID-19 centers would continue operating, because we don't want people to die. We want to send them a message, and we have sent them a message. Other departments have not been working, are not working today, and this will continue for 3 days. If they are serious about us and the people of this country, they will try to make sure they fulfill the agreement in 3 days. And after 3 days, on the 4th of September, if they fail to honor this agreement, there will be total shutdown of nursing healthcare services in this country. This is not my position. This is the position of nurses and midwives in this country. I happen to be a leader amongst them, but I don't control them. They decide, and I go ahead, rationalize with them, talk to them, and that is what I've been doing all this while. That is what we have been doing all this while. But since the Ministry of Health has decided to fail this nation, there is nothing much we can do. We have to make sure the reality prevails. In conclusion, the satisfaction of nurses is a key determinant of ensuring quality healthcare service delivery. Threatening them or asking them to resign is definitely not a wise decision a leader should take. As a leader, you should put yourself in the shoes of your subordinates and put their interests first. Nurses' salaries can barely put food on the plates. Nurses merely wants to meet the basic minimums, food, water, and shelter. We live from paycheck to paycheck, and that is the reality of our situation. I thank you all.
Mr. Usman. I think you have stated our position very clearly. The reason why we are embarking on this sit-down strike is not out of our will, but we want to show to the general public that the Ministry of Health, they are not people that usually stick to their words. Because as he said, this thing has been going on for months. They still cannot implement a very simple tax, which is just to input the name, the payroll number, and the amount that the individual should receive. So for up to 100 days. So at this point, why we don't want to go for a complete sit down, because we want to give, we are extremely concerned about the welfare of the general public. That's why we said we are just going to provide limited service. But I think if they care about the health of the public, as the SG said, they will honor the agreement within these 3 days and make sure that every single nurse who's supposed to receive this salary or the allowance receives his or her allowance. That is from now against Friday. So at this juncture, I will entertain questions and answers from the press. So the executive is here to answer the questions. Anyone who wants to answer any question, you can raise your hand and you come forward. Yes. Received. Thank you very much. I'll just say briefly and the others can respond or add on to that. First, I don't know whether you were listening to what the SG was saying, that this was a move that was geared towards, like, say you pay some, let's just rush and pay some, so that when they say that they have received, others will say, okay, let's forget about them. The basic health service is just a component. The total number of staff we have at the Edward Fund is small. It's more than the nurses, or it's equal to nurses in the basic health services. So if we have paid some, and not in fact everybody has received, our motto is pay every nurse and we continue the service. That's the basic. But we don't want a situation where they will pay few, as what they did in the COVID-19 hours. Still now up to today, some nurses did not benefit, and the things goes like that. So you don't want this status quo to remain. We want every nurse to receive his or her due.